Hello, and welcome to Film with Family. I'm Austin.
And I'm Zach.
And we're two cousins talking about movies. Today, we'll have on my father, Glen Pruett, to talk about one of his favorite movies, the 2007 Sean Penn directed film, Into the Wild. So, before we get into that, Zach, just wanted to check in. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a productive weekend.
What did you do?
I'm part of this like film farm group thing at Planet Ant, and we've been writing this web series, and we held auditions for that on Sunday to fill out some roles, and so that was fun. Got a lot of talented people showed up for that.
And that's sketch comedy?
Yeah, it's like we're trying to do like a little web series, comedic web series that's like set at Planet Ant. Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to start filming on that soon. Now that
Awesome.
we've did the auditions, and I'm doing like a music video project that I'm filming with my buddy Scott and this artist Matthew Daher. So, doing some creative projects. So that always feels good.
Awesome.
I'm trying to churn out stuff, music, the plackies, I like to output some creative stuff.
And the Plackies is our family band. Between Zach and all the cousins and us, how many albums have you guys put out? I mean, I've made a feature on a few albums, but I'm not a regular, but I would still say it's our family band.
Yeah, it's primarily Troy's Weifler from California cousin, and me and Caleb, and we also get you involved, and Heath. Yeah, I don't know how many albums. Like it's mostly EPs, I guess you'd call them, like kind of like 4 or 5 tracks. But I think it's like maybe like 14 or 15 like things we put out on Bandcamp. And we just put out our most recent one called The Beast. Check it out on bandcamp.com.
Nice. And I was actually in your neck of the woods this weekend recording my own EP with my band from Chicago. Just so happened I was in Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Yeah, I was bummed I couldn't see. You guys are too busy churning away in the studio.
Yeah, we were working round the clock, burning the midnight oil.
Is this a Motel TV? Is the name?
Yeah, my band Motel TV. And we recorded 5 songs, and we'll have those songs out, hopefully pretty soon. Have a little EP out on the way.
Nice. I'm excited to listen to that.
So without further ado, I would like to introduce my father, direct from the Big Island in Hawaii, Glen Pruett.
Out of the wild. I mean, into the wild.
Out of Hawaii and into the wild.
Yeah.
So, Dad, we're tasking our family to choose any movie in the world to talk about on this podcast. Why did you choose Into the Wild?
Well, this movie just really resonated with me. And I think a lot of it has to do with being a parent. A lot of it has to do with, having sons. And, the theme of the movie deals so strongly with a young man's rite of passage.
We should say that Into the Wild is based on a true story about this kid who was about in his early 20s, who graduated from Emory University.
Yes.
And decided immediately that he was going to donate $24,000 to Oxfam, that was his college fund, and burn all his money and
cut up his social security card and identity and all that. Just hit the road in his beaten down little car.
It's a true story that was turned into kind of a biographical book by John Krakauer, and then it was adapted into a screenplay by Sean Penn and directed by Sean Penn.
And a lot of people talk smack about McCandless because they figured, well, kid didn't know what he was doing. he was an asshole. You know, a lot of people said really rotten things about McCandless when he died. And the book, which I recently listened to by John Krakauer, by and large, what I get from the book is the fact that John Krakauer wanted to set it straight. This kid was a good kid. He was really looking for something. And, you know, sometimes you just got to walk away. And that's what he did. And he wanted to walk away. He didn't want to be encumbered by any phone calls from his parents or anything to dissuade him from what he wanted to do because he had his heart set on going north.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, when he did this journey in real life, it was 1992. So there was no cell phones. There was no way to keep in touch with people in an immediate basis. You know, it was just, if he wanted to call his parents, it would be calling him on a payphone. And for his parents and his family, there really was no recourse to find him other than maybe put out something to the FBI, which I assume that they did. Do they talk about that at all in the book?
Yeah, they did. They hired a private detective to hunt him down. They found the car. They found, of course, they knew where he was living. The parents went there. They said, no, he'd been gone for 2 months. They were writing him letters, but he was sending them back. And he specifically told the post office, don't send them back until, you know, you absolutely have to. So they got all the letters that they had written him back. In the movie, the daughter said that in a voiceover that she was hoarding letters until to give him more time. They had really interesting family dynamics. His father had like a double wife, 8 children.
Wait, hold on. 8 children with another family?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that was one of the reasons why he left. And, you know, it just reminds me so much of myself because I left home the day I graduated high school. The day I graduated high school. And I never really went back. And I guess that's one of the reasons that the movie resonates with me so much. And I also, you know, did a trip across country with a friend of mine where we hitchhiked from Ann Arbor to Houston to LA. And we did it it took a whole summer for us to do that.
That's awesome.
And we had very little money and had the time of our life.
Are there any specific like memories of that road trip that stick out in your head?
I remember my friend Randy was arrested for swimming naked in Austin. Some cops came up, some Texas Rangers on horses, and they were like, "You stand up." So Randy was like, "Okay," stood up. What the hell? You're arrested, you know.
Do you have to bail him out?
I don't think they actually arrested him. They just gave him a really hard time. I think they wrote him a ticket, but he never paid it, you know.
Yeah,
he was like, I'm not coming back to Texas.
Well, I did something very similar. You know, the day after I graduated college, I left for Europe and I had my own kind of excursion like that.
I took you to the airport. I remember.
Yeah.
It was very emotional. And I think part of my love for this film has to do with your leaving.
Yeah, but I mean, at the time of this movie coming out, I wasn't traveled at all.
I know that.
I hadn't been anywhere. I was, I think, like a sophomore in college, and I remember you taking me and my brother Drew to the Randhurst Mall movie theater in Chicago. And
well, I had already seen the movie once before, and I said, well, this would be a really great movie to take my sons to. And after I did it, I had such an emotional response. I don't know if you remember that, but I was in tears driving home because I know I knew that I was going to be in for it. I was going to be in for it in sort of the same way that his parents responded to the whole thing, wondering where you guys were, what you were doing, and to this day, I still do that.
Yeah. Do you ever walk into the middle of the street and just sit down like William Hurt and just
And pull
cry
my
out?
pants up.
Yeah, and pull up your ankles, pull up your pant angles.
No, I've done worse.
I wanted to hear a little bit more about this trip you took after you graduated college, your own little into the wild kind of adventure, Austin.
Well, I can definitely relate to the character of Christopher McCandless because I, loved, On the Road and Jack London and those kind of books, and I liked writing, and I basically just grew up in the suburbs of Chicago my whole life and felt like I had a pretty narrow view of the world. And so by the time I graduated college, I was just like, get me out of here. I'll just go anywhere. And so I took like a one-way ticket trip to Europe where I worked on a bunch of farms in Germany and took little side trips to Rome and Spain, and I remember when I got home, Dad, I had taken a little selfie photo of me in the middle of the Swiss Alps. And I remember when I showed it to you, your first response was, if you would have died, this would have been like your Christopher McCandless photo. Like this would have like the photo of him like in front of his bus.
I
I
said
remember,
that.
yeah, that was your first response. You were like, this is your
Oh my
McCandless.
God.
Yeah. And then I spent 2 years in Africa, which was partly a result of the, farming and traveling I did in Europe. But Zach, I know you went on a little journey by yourself for your 30th birthday last year, didn't you?
Yeah, that's kind of like the closest thing I could relate to this movie, probably is this road trip I just took last year from Michigan to California. And I was never hitchhiking at any point. I was in my Prius the whole time. But it didn't watching this movie made me think about just seeing the different parts of this country, like all the beautiful like deserts and the forests, and that I don't know, I think this movie does a good job capturing that adventure feeling, that and like just seeing beautiful places and coming across interesting people. And
Dad, how do you want to kick off this conversation, getting into the nitty gritty of this movie?
Well, when I was in college and I was a theater major and pretty serious, I won Best Actor the first year. I won Best Director the second year at college. And I had a book, a makeup book that was required for us to have, and it was called Richard Corson's Makeup Book. And I had a picture of Hal Holbrook as Mark Twain. And I was always identified with Hal Holbrook as the quintessential American actor.
We should just say Hal Holbrook is the character in the fifth chapter of this movie, entitled "The Getting of Wisdom," and he plays the character Ron Franz.
Right. There's a great story that he was doing some film, but there was a 12-year-old kid that was in the movie with him. And this kid, when they wrapped the movie, said, "Hey, can we stay in touch? Can I have your address?" And Hal said, "No problem." Gave him his address, and he wrote him several times, and they were in contact over the years. But that 12-year-old kid happened to be Sean Penn,
Oh,
who later cast him in this film, and he received a nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
oh, did he win the
So that
Oscar?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think I think that he was just nominated, but
Wow. Did you ever see him perform as Mark Twain?
I saw the television version. And I remember the coolest thing was when he made his entrance for the second act, this large plume of cigar smoke came, just the plume,
Yeah.
and then he walked through it, and then yeah, he was amazing.
So yeah, he was nominated in 2008 for Best Supporting Role, an Oscar, and he lost to Javier Bardem for No Country for Old Men,
Right.
Ooh.
one of Zach's favorite movies.
I'm just wondering if we can talk more about Into the Wild.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I've just got so many notes here.
Did he rewatch it for this podcast?
Did I rewatch it? Yes, I did, and I also read the audio book. I had the audio book and listened to it in 7 hours.
Nice. You did your homework.
Yeah, the one thing I'll just say off the bat with this movie is the cast is so good. You've got, I mean, Emil Hirsch, I think, does such a great job as Christopher McCandless.
You know, he was 165 pounds when he started, and when he was done, by the time that he did the scene with the bear, and he was starving to death, he weighed 115 pounds.
Wow. Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Just like that bear that just like looks at him while he's standing there.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the same interview that I saw where he recounted it recently, and he said that he was so skinny that he could feel his heart beating through his chest.
Right.
And I mean, that final scene is horrific. I mean, just how skinny he is and how, I mean, just watching this person who like basically looks like a skeleton, just like slowly dying in like the most, what seems like the most painful, awful way. I mean, it is really like, it's like a horror movie.
Yeah, like the bear looks at him like, yeah, there's not enough meat on your bones. I'm not even gonna bother to eat you.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, yeah.
I'll pass.
Yeah.
This guy does not look healthy.
He's like, I'm probably gonna get sick if I eat this guy.
Well, you know, Sean Penn made some great directorial choices during that film, and I was thinking about it. You know, it's like he had to ask himself, okay, what do you do when you're alone? I mean, really alone. What are the things that you do? You know, you have that scene where he's just like tossing pebbles into a can, or you got that scene when he's on the road and he's got an apple and he starts talking to the apple. You're the apple of my eye, and all that. You know, I mean, those are great questions to think about. You know, when you're doing whatever project you're doing, is that what do you do when you're in this situation? What do you do when you're in this situation?
There's a really funny scene where he's talking to himself and he's like in the front of the bus and he's like, quiet, old man.
Yeah.
He's like, where are we going? We're going nowhere.
Is anybody out there? Guess not.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie does a good job of most of the movie. He's like having such a great time just being by himself, just doing whatever he wants. Like you really get that sense.
Alexander Supertramp.
Yeah, he's the super tramp.
When I was in Africa, I had all these three German girls come to my house because I was living in like a guest house that was like supposed to take people in. And I remember these three German girls came to stay at the guest house, and I was showing them around and talking to them and stuff. And they're like, you're like Supertramp. You're like Supertramp. And I was like, what? I was like, are you calling me a tramp? They're like, no, like that movie. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I'll take it.
Wow, you're Chris McCandless.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Danish couple, and when he's kayaking down the river, like that's a really good little scene.
Like, we have hot dogs.
Yeah, like the Danish boyfriend's like calling her stupid and stuff. It's like, I love her, but she's dumb. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great little characters in this.
Yeah, another old guy performance I really like. It's just the little scene where he's on the payphone, like trying to call his sister or something. And then there's also this old guy also on the payphone next to him, and he's like, come on now. And he's like, he needs a quarter to continue the conversation. Chris gives him a quarter. It just felt very real.
Yeah, very real.
You don't know his story, but like you want to know more. But it's just a little
Mhm.
slice of life that I really liked. And I mean, only towards the end of the movie when he's like actually like starving and dying does he like ever get angry or show any negative emotions. But yeah, pretty much when he's out on the road, he's like has this bliss about him, and there's like tons of montages of him just going about his travels and just has a big smile on his face. And the movie does a good job of capturing the positive side of going on an adventure like that on a road trip kind of thing.
I was just gonna say, there's that really beautiful shot of him walking around the Alaskan wilderness, and all of those antelope, or not antelope, but
Caribou,
yeah,
caribou.
when all those caribou just run by him, and you see him see this beautiful moment in nature with his naked eyes, and you just see him kind of tearing up. That's just a
Mm-hmm.
really
Yeah, it was
beautiful
beautiful,
moment.
beautiful.
Yeah, I also like him when he sees the owls and they like are hooting at each other. Just like
Yeah,
little interactions with animals is always good.
nice, nice touches.
Yeah, I like in the movie how they do play around with different cinematography techniques. Like there's that one scene when he's walking around, I think it's California, and he just looks so bewildered coming back into society. And they do these kind of snapshots and some shutter speed tricks where the light's kind of panning. And I don't know, I thought that was a cool choice.
And I was surprised to see that Sean Penn directed this movie. I like totally didn't realize that
Yeah, he was
till
a real bad boy coming up, and I guess there was a time when he and Madonna were together that some guy paparazzi came up and started taking pictures, and Sean Penn just knocked the shit out of him. There's some lawsuits.
Yeah.
yeah.
So he was kind of a bad boy, for a long. You can still see it in his eyes, you know.
Yeah. Emil Hirsch is a bit of a bad boy as well. I don't know if you heard about this story, but he like assaulted a woman, like a female executive, in 2015, and he pled guilty to it. He like chokeholded her and slammed her onto a table, and like she was like fearing for her life. And I mean, I think Emil Hirsch is a great actor, but I think people should know that he did this really awful thing, and he pled
That's
guilty to it.
awful.
Yeah, he said he was really drunk when it happened, and like he doesn't even really remember it. But
Jesus, was it a sexual assault, or was he just
I don't think it didn't say it was sexual at all. It was like at a bar or a club or something, and he was like really shit faced, and for whatever reason, he decided to just like fucking really attack this woman. And
whoa? Well, I think less of him.
yeah, it's I do think he's in a lot of movies I like, and
Yeah.
I like him as an actor. I think he's good in this movie. There's movie Killer Joe, I think he's great in, and Prince Avalanche.
It is pretty remarkable what he does to his body in this movie. I mean, that one scene where he just comes up over that hill and he just looks completely emaciated. It's pretty shocking. I kind of forgot because yeah, I mean, I haven't seen this movie probably since 2007 when we saw it in the theater.
Well, there was all this conjecture about whether he had a death wish, whether he poisoned himself, which is the case. He accidentally poisoned himself with the wild potato root
Right.
because he was eating the seeds of the wild potato root. And he figured, well, if I can eat the root, I can eat the seeds. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then he discovered in his book that he had in the movie.
That's just like a pretty shock. I mean, the way that they depict that is pretty amazing as well. Just when you see it zoom in on like lateral veins, and then he
Yeah,
looks at the seed and he's like, fuck. Like
yeah, yeah.
it's just
Zooms in on the word poisonous, pops up from the text. Yeah.
Well, also in listening to the book, they talked a lot about how people were talking smack about him at a death wish, and he was just didn't know what he was doing and all that. But he really was careful. In the time he was really trying to be, and that's what John Krakauer really brings forward. Is that this was a good person. He wasn't trying to take advantage of anything. He just wanted to do what he wanted to do, and he accidentally poisoned himself. They said that had he had more glucose and more of a caloric intake, that it would have he probably would have got through it. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, he was starving. That's what he died from.
So let's back up just a little bit and just talk about all of the kind of chapters of this movie, because it tells the journey of Christopher McCandless kind of through other characters, which are played by great actors.
Great actors.
You've got
Kathy Keener.
Yeah, I'm a big Keener head. She's always
good. Keener is so good in this movie.
She plays kind of this motherly figure to him. And like the hippie couple, I don't know what that other actor is. I looked him up.
I don't either.
Apparently he's only in like one other movie. I wonder if he's like a musician or something.
Yeah, his name's Brian H. Durker or something.
He was great.
Oh, he's really good. I love that one line when they're sitting on the rock together and he's like, all is not well on the hippie front.
Yeah. He reminds me of the dude, Jeff Bridges and Big Lebowski. Yeah. He's got that hippie energy.
No, the old dude that they go to the Salvation Army, and there's an old dude there, and he's saying, God really loves me. I really love you.
So I think that place is called Salvation Mountain.
Oh, okay.
And it is in the California desert, near Imperial County.
But that old dude, Sean Penn, I heard it somewhere. He said, let's just throw the script out the window and let this guy do his thing.
When a lot of tourists come in here and they look at that car door up there, they really like it. And I found car doors and put them in there, and I bolted it all in.
Where'd you get the telephone poles?
Oh, a lot of people in the valley just love me a lot. Everybody now, I think, in the whole world is just loving me. And I want to have the wisdom to love them back. And that's about it. So I really get excited.
You really believe in love, then?
Yeah, totally. And this is a love story that is staggering to everybody in the whole world. That God really loves us a lot. I don't know, does that answer that?
Yeah.
Good. I really love it here. I think the freedom of this place is just so beautiful. To me, I wouldn't move for $10 million unless I had to. So I'm contented here in the desert, and I'm living where I want to live. And I think good gets better.
Yeah, I love that guy.
and he was so authentic.
Yeah.
He's just like the real deal,
Well, he actually did all of that art on the Salvation Mountain. He's
yeah.
He's the real guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the real deal. So I just thought that was just such a really nice directorial choice for those two kids to experience this guy.
Yeah, just soaking up his weird love wisdom. Yeah, that's a great scene.
Yeah, he's just got so many great lines and delivers it in such a true way when he's staring at him with those eyes. Like you can just tell he means every word that what he's saying.
Right. Yeah.
One of my favorite characters in this is played by Vince Vaughn. He plays the farmer.
Maybe when I get back, I can write a book about my travels. About getting out of this sick society. Society, man. Society.
Alex, you're a hell of a young guy. A hell of a young guy. But I promise you this. You're a young guy. Can't be juggling blood and fire all the time. You gotta just kind of
Wayne, what are you
ease.
talking about?
What?
I mean,
I'm talking about blood and fire. We're talking about trying to juggle blood and fire.
Yeah, I'm not a big Vince Vaughn fan, but I think this might be my favorite Vince Vaughn role. Like he just looks really good with like the goatee as like kind of a redneck blue collar kind of dude. And he's like kind of tapping into something I don't really see him tap into in any other movie, which is fun. And his buddy is Zach Galifianakis, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah,
Not a non-comedic role for Zach Galifianakis. Very small role.
super small role. I barely recognize him at first, and then when I heard him, he's got that great scene though, where he's just kind of mumbling under his breath about hunting, and just it's like, don't get flies on them, and they start shitting out them maggots, and he's got the chew under his lip and everything. He does such a great job.
Kind of foreshadows the maggoty moose later.
One thing that we can't divorce ourselves from is Eddie Vedder and his soundtrack.
Of course.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the Eddie Vedder of it all.
Yeah, it's just you know, he Penn and Vedder are like canoe busters. They're like, you know, they spend time together.
That's awesome. I mean, they have a similar vibe for sure.
Yeah, and I just thought the soundtrack was you know, basically a narration of, you know, of Chris McCandless's inner soul, or whatever you want to say. But it's a great choice to ask Eddie Vedder to write those songs. He wrote those songs specifically for him.
I like that song, Society, You're a Crazy Breed.
It's a mystery to me. We have agreed with which we have agreed. And you think you have to want more than you need. Until you have it all, you won't be free.
One of the lines for Vedder that I have here is one of the songs that he sang. He says, "I know all the rules, but the rules don't know me." Oh gosh! And the John Prine song with Kristen and Emil singing. That was a great choice. Angel from Montgomery.
Yeah.
I've always been a big John Prine fan.
Yeah.
Dear Abby, well, I never thought that me and my girlfriend would ever get caught. We were sitting in the back seat just shooting the breeze, with her hair up in curlers and her pants to her knees. I'm just married.
I love John Prine. Rest in peace. Just recently died a few years ago. Yeah. We got King of the Road too in there at some
King
point.
of the Road, first boxcar, midnight train, destination bangers bang. Old worn out suit and shoes, I don't pay no union dues. Roger Miller.
Yeah, and another great song in this, probably my favorite needle drop in the movie is when
that we really haven't touched on is his you know, penchant for Jack London, with Call of the Wild, Henry David Thoreau, Tolstoy, and all these other great authors. But at the same time, he's reading stuff like Michael Crichton.
Mm-hmm. Just something to distract him.
He was a smart kid, you know. I mean, how many what do they call them, rubber tramps or
leather tramps
would you find, you know, in a situation like that? They were reading Tolstoy, you know.
Right.
I mean, the kid you know, he had great quality.
You know, I'm going to Alaska this summer.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, I'm going on a cruise to Alaska this summer. And I don't know, this movie definitely got me excited about it.
Well, are you going to go to Denali Park?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was 16 miles from Denali Park.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that we should talk about a little bit, is how these locations are the actual locations that Christopher McCandless went to, correct?
Yeah, and one of the things to know is that there's no reason why he should have starved to death because he threw his maps away, and because he wanted to be like in the wild, he wanted to be completely disassociated from society. But he threw his maps out. But there happened to be some survival camp sheds for people that were built for people that were in trouble, and he was only 3 miles from those three sheds. So, and he could have made it out. He just didn't know didn't know which way to go.
Yeah. But I just want to go back. But Sean Penn did a lot of research with John Krakauer. I think they actually worked together physically
with the family too. Very, very important to the family that the story gets told correctly.
Right.
So they were like in on the whole deal.
That's so interesting. Yeah. And I mean, I saw a little documentary on YouTube of Sean Penn and John Krakauer like driving around Denali National Park, and they're actually at the place. Like, so what I think is great about this movie is that they really take the time to show you exactly what his journey was and show you the places that he actually was in. It's not just some interpretation of what he did. It's like they actually went to the spaces. And am I wrong? But is that bus the actual bus he died in?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Still there.
That's so crazy that they actually went to the actual bus.
In fact, I think the guy who starts the movie off and is in the truck that drives him to the stopping point, says, here, take my boots. That was the real dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Were there any other actors in the movie that had actually had interactions with Christopher McCandless?
I don't think so. I think he was the only one, and the guy at Slab City, I think, was the real deal.
Salvation Mountain, yeah.
Yeah. But I think a lot of those people at Slab City were the real deal.
Yeah, another thing that I like just about aesthetically about this movie is that it feels like there's just kind of like a home movie camera following him around. Everything feels very handheld and shaky. So you do really feel like you're just kind of on the road with this guy.
Right.
Yeah, and like all the flashbacks when he is talking about his home life or like growing up, like all that's kind of shot in that grainy kind of home video style, and he's talking about his relationship with his parents and
kind of like family home movies.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think all that stuff's pretty effective at kind of showing why he's the way he is. Like he just didn't get along with his parents, and yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, you just froze for a moment.
Living in Hawaii,
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, because he was drawn to Alaska, was it? And you're kind of drawn to Hawaii. Like, is there a parallel there? Like you wanting to go out to Hawaii, is that kind of an own into the wild kind of thing?
Yeah, real strong parallel. I had a pulmonary embolism in 2010, and then I had another one in 2012, and both of those embolisms happened when I was on stage. And I had to be hospitalized for both of those incidents. And then shortly after that, I turned 60 years old. And I just said to myself, I need to liberate myself and be by myself and just sort of be in a very beautiful spot. And it was really important to me. And I came to Hawaii to see a friend, and I got here, and I was only here for 2 weeks, and I was sending out resumes every day. And the last day before I was supposed to go back to fucking Flint, Michigan, I
Which was literally going through the water crisis unbeknownst to anybody.
Right, yes, I was drinking lead water there. Yeah, for sure. Probably part of my health issues. And I uh, I was sitting on the beach on Magic Sands Beach, and I looked down, and there was a penny glistening in the sun, and I picked that penny up, and the phone rang, and it was a woman at a nut farm, and she said, "Hey, I got your resume. You can start tomorrow." And I went, "Okay."
It was a macadamia nut farm in Hawaii, right? And on the Big Island.
Yeah, yeah. But coming to Hawaii, I had Into the Wild in the back of my head a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bold thing to do, to kind of leave your friends and family behind. It's a little bit scary thing to do, but I mean, if you find a place that is beautiful and kind of speaks to your spirit or something like that, like Hawaii or something like, I think it's really cool that you followed that.
Yeah, I've never lived better. I really, really, really am very happy here. And I can walk out on my back porch and look at whales now. I mean, it's just, I just love my life. I really do.
Yeah, I visited you out there in 2018, and yeah, I was like, you got a nice little setup here. I really like the part of the island you're living at, and I don't know, Hawaii's it's an amazing place. Just don't eat any weird roots or berries, Just be careful out there.
Yeah, and if you kill a moose, watch out for them creepy crawly maggots.
That's another thing that those hunters that found him were saying. They said, the kid was an idiot. He didn't know what he was doing. That wasn't a moose that he killed. It was a caribou.
Oh.
And they were wrong.
Oh, they were wrong. It was a moose.
It was a moose. And the kid didn't know what he was doing. And that's one of the things John Krakauer really, really tries to stress, is that people were talking smack about McCandless, but he was really a good kid, and he really had his head on his shoulders, and he was smart, and he was well read, and he was educated, and he just made a bad mistake, like we all do.
Yeah, he kept a journal, right? And like in the book, you get to like read all these like things he was writing, and you can tell he's a smart mind. He's a good writer. I think I read the book in high school, but I don't remember it too well. But
yeah, I read it too, actually, while I was in Europe. I remember reading it in one sitting while I was hanging out at a airport or something. So I did read it, but it's been a while. So I appreciate you refreshing our memory on the book. I am curious. So you said you didn't like the book. What is it about the book versus the movie? What's the difference?
The book wasn't all about McCandless. The book was, I would say, about half of the book was about McCandless, and then there was like a third of the book that was about all these people who were like McCandless. Then he went into how he identified with McCandless because he himself was a climber, an adventurer, and he had really bad experiences like on Mount Everest and all that. And then he cycled back to McCandless in the very end, where he was talking about the plants and what is edible and what is not edible.
So you just didn't like that it was like veering off the main story.
Yeah. The thing about it is that, basically a Krakauer is a reporter. And the book reminded me of an article in a magazine, and not a a Call of the Wild or whatever. Right. I was sort of thrown off when he started doing that segue into other people who were like McCandless. He himself was like McCandless. I wanted it to be all about McCandless.
Yeah, in that documentary where it's Krakauer and Penn in Alaska, like the very first shot is them talking, and it's Krakauer basically just telling Sean Penn about how much he hates writing.
People don't believe me. They think I'm just bullshitting when I say I don't enjoy writing, and I do not enjoy writing. Maybe because I'm a perfectionist, or maybe because I'm insecure about putting down crap on the page, that I just can't get those fucking first words on the page. And once I do, no matter how bad they are, it's great. Then I have something to work with.
So you can that makes sense to me that you don't see the passion in the book the same way you do in the movie.
Yeah, right. And there's something I wanted to bring up. It's a line toward the end of the movie, and he talks about happiness is only real when shared.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with it. I have a hard time with that belief that happiness is only real when it's shared. Because, I mean, with what's happened to me in my life, I want to share my happiness with others, but it doesn't seem to me to be any more unreal to want to share happiness with myself.
Well, yeah, I mean, going to the theme of this podcast about family, I mean, this movie is very much centered around the idea of family, even though it is about a single person out on their own and abandoning their family, more or less. It does talk about, the kind of family that we choose, that Catherine Keener's character and her husband basically become his chosen family. And then Hal Holbrook's character, and honestly, I really feel like that final chapter of the movie, The Getting of Wisdom, that final 40 minutes could be a movie unto itself. Like, I feel like that is just such a great short story from beginning to end. You see in Hal Holbrook's character a man who's lost his family because of an accident. His daughter and his wife were hit by a car. And so because of that, like, he's just been forced into this life of having no family. And then he meets this young kid who's openly telling him that he doesn't want a family and he doesn't want to be with his family. And I just think it's a very interesting juxtaposition between the two of them. And, you have this youthful person who's, pretty idealistic and maybe naive, versus a man who's obviously seen a lot in his life. And to him, the most important thing is love and family. And McCandless doesn't really see that until the very end of the movie, when his last dying thoughts are of running into his mother and father's arms and going back home and being back with his family. So I don't know. I feel like the moral of the story is that you shouldn't abandon your family. Like, you should be appreciative of the love and the family that's in your life.
Hal Holbrook actually, he actually asked like to adopt Christopher McCandless as well, and that's an emotional scene. And he's like, I don't know, can we talk about this when I get back from Alaska?
Right.
Which is like adds like another layer of like heartbreak to it, because we know he's not coming back.
And I think Holbrook's character knows he's not coming back either. You kind of see in his eyes, it's like, this is it.
Yeah, I also like the scene of when he's like egging the guy on to go hike up the mountain. He's like talking, always like sitting on his butt.
You're gonna live a long time, Ron. You should make a radical change in your lifestyle. I mean, the core of man's spirit comes from new experiences. And there you are, stubborn old man, sitting on your butt.
Sitting on my butt?
Yeah.
Ha! I'll show you, sitting on my butt. Stubborn old man. I'll show you.
Come on, then. Come on.
Sitting on my butt.
Sitting on my butt. Sitting on my butt. He just keeps muttering, sitting on my butt to himself. That's another great scene.
Like, I feel like that whole scene between the two of them is just such like its own parable. Like when he says, you can see the Salton Sea from the other side of this mountain. And he's like, yeah, okay. And then he just walks right back down. Like, I don't need to see the Salton Sea. Like, obviously he was like in the army. He's probably seen a lot. It's just interesting. You see like this guy in his early 20s just still like excited to see things like the sea from a mountain, when you got this older guy who's just like, I don't really need to see that. I'm fine.
But at the end of that scene, there's a whole idea of seeing or feeling the light and the light of God, and then the clouds part and they're both bathed in the light, and it's just such a theatrical moment, really.
Yeah. It says God's light shines on those who love. And then right when he says that, the clouds part and the sun shines on them and they just start cracking up.
Right.
And then that's the final thing that happens to him as he's dying, is he looks up and the clouds part and he starts the sun's shining on him.
And I mean, from a medical standpoint, they talk about starvation and that euphoric end to death, and that evidently there is some sort of euphoric thing that happens when you.
Yeah, like the DMT, like in your body, kind of releases, and you kind of trip when you die, they say.
Going back to your problem with the phrase "happiness is only real when shared," I feel like,
isn't that from a book called like Family Happiness that he's reading from?
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I think that maybe when you're in that lonely of a state and you're still young and you're still trying, you're just out there trying to see the world, you're trying to experience things and kind of share more things with more people. I feel like when you're on the road like that, I think it's a misconception to say that you're alone, because you're meeting people all the time and it's really exciting, and you're getting new relationships and new people to share these things with. And it's really great when you have those moments like you're swimming in a river or something by yourself, and it's really fun and awesome when you're healthy. But when you're sick and you're alone and you're feeling like you're going to die, all you want is your mom to be there, really.
Yeah, just any family.
Yeah. And like you just realize that maybe life is meant to be shared. When you first see this movie, you feel like, or at least when I was younger and I first saw the movie, you see that Christopher McCandless kind of has the right idea. Like he's like, I'm trying to abandon society. Society is sick. I don't like I don't want to be that guy with the slick back hair in the bar with the suit on.
I don't want a new car for my parents.
I
want my shitty car.
Exactly. But like now that I'm a little bit older, I watch it and I'm kind of just like, he's just naive, like he hasn't seen enough of the world yet. And that's kind of what he's doing, but he's a little arrogant, towards, what life actually means and what other people go through, and like the reason people are the way they are. It's not just that like everyone's brainwashed and like society's wrong or whatever. It's like Hal Holbrook when he's like, what are you doing out here? And he's like, this is my home. And he's like, you're in the dirt. Like, what are you doing out here?
Yeah.
And it, I don't know, like I relate more with Holbrook's character now than I do with McCandless, because I'm just kind of like, put some pants on, go inside, eat some food. Like you're nuts. But I mean, when you're that age though, and you haven't done that yet, and you don't know what is all out there, you need to see it to have that perspective.
Well, I mean, from my point of view, when I was a teenager and I left home, I just wanted to just do my thing, and there was nobody who could tell me anything. And one of the things that you see at the end is this idea of forgiveness, that and apology. He should have not been so unforgiving to his parents. He should have, he should have, you know, and I think he was on his way to do that. I think he was on his way back to do that, um, to try to get out of there, and then he couldn't because of the river.
He was trapped.
Right.
You know, the glacier had cut loose the water. You know, and he didn't see that coming. But had he been a little smarter, you know, had he kept his maps, you know, he was smart enough to figure that out, and he could have got out of there.
Yeah, it's stuff like burning his money. It's like,
Yeah.
and now you're working at Burger King. You know, it's like you could have hung on to that, and you wouldn't have.
Yeah, cutting up the social security card and like burning money like that, just like a little cringy. He's like, oh man, this guy's so arrogant.
Yeah, it's like you just don't. You just kind of. It's foolish, you know. It's like, I mean, no, I don't doubt, and most people don't doubt that he was a smart guy and that he had good intentions. But yeah, I mean, running into the middle of the Alaskan wilderness and throwing away your maps just because you read some Tolstoy or whatever is a little foolish. But you know, he also, you know, his spirit has inspired a lot of people since his death. And since this movie and the book and everything. So, I mean, characters like that are important, you know, in history, just as anybody else, you know. So,
yeah, it's inspiring and a cautionary tale all wrapped up into one. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting movie.
Well, Dad, I think that was a really good talk about a movie that you really love and that I really appreciate. Inspired me in a lot of different ways. Why don't you just give some of your final thoughts on this movie? Just generally, how do you feel about it? Where does it sit, like, in your favorite movies of all time?
It's right at the top, you know. I mean, you know, um, I and I really like the fact that I saw it with both you and Drew, and you know that whole thing about rite of passage for a young man. That was the reason I took you guys to see that movie, because I had such a strong response to it in terms of what had happened in my life and what I needed to do on my own without any help from anyone. And I just wanted you guys to experience, you know, what can happen, what can go wrong, and how it can move your life in a good direction, bad direction, and you know, just try to find some sort of fulfillment in your being. So I just think it's a really important film in that regard.
I'm wondering because it feels conflicting because you're a father. Were you expecting me to go on a journey like he did, or did you want me to? I mean, feels like any parent who sees this movie might not want that to happen, but
okay, it's something that I felt that I knew you were going to do. I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to. If you were given that opportunity, you would take it. And I can remember after that movie was over, I was like, what have I done? Why did I bring my kids to see this film? They're going to break my heart. They're going to break my heart. And well, that's done. But I knew that basically I knew both of you were going to do exactly what you wanted to do. And I guess it was my offering to you was like, you know, this is just an example of how things can go wrong and how great it can be at the same time. You know, you might, God, you get to go to Slab City. You know?
to meet Kristen Stewart and Vince Vaughn and Zach Galifianakis and Hal Holbrook and Catherine Keener.
You get to meet all these cool people, you know. So, but in the end, you know, you might bite the big one. but I can remember having a very strong emotional response that was sort of like, do I want my kids to see me crying here? Why am I feeling this way? Whatever. But it was something that I felt like I needed to do. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad we saw it together. Film with family.
Yeah, yeah. I had a fine time rewatching this movie. It's a lot longer than I remember it being. It's like almost 2.5 hours long. But I mean, it's got a lot of good stuff in there. I really like the structure of this movie, which we didn't really talk about, because it's like it starts off with him getting to Alaska, and then like it flashes back like 15 minutes into the movie or so, like to like him graduating college, and then the movie's kind of functioning on these two parallel timelines of like him in Alaska and him doing all the stuff before. And I think that structure of the movie really helps keep it interesting for its runtime. There is some kind of gimmicky editing stuff going on, like the way the text at the beginning like kind of scrolls with the big Comic Sansy kind of text in yellow kind of scrolls across the screen and stuff. And like there's like just like some weird like slow-mo uses and freeze frames and split screen. Like it kind of takes me out of the movie sometimes, like just like some gimmicky 2007 style video editing. But just yeah, like the performances and just the music and the heart of this movie kind of overlook that stuff. And it's a good movie. It's worth revisiting if you haven't seen it since 2007, I would say, because there's a lot of good stuff in this movie.
It's interesting that he starts the film off with that quote from Lord Byron, who I know nothing about. I know nothing about Lord Byron, but the one thing that stuck with me was that it's not that I love man less, but that I love nature more.
Mm-hmm.
And that really resonated with me. But it's such a brave and odd choice to start with Lord Byron.
Yeah, and after the quote in the movie, it goes right to the scene of like his mother like waking up in a cold sweat like of a nightmare. It's like I heard him, and it's really like an very interesting way to start the movie. Just like her having like this horrible like kind of prescient kind of nightmare about her son
Yeah,
that's been
Marcia Gay
missing.
Harden was great in that part.
Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely an interesting start to this movie.
Yeah, I'll agree. I like the structure of the movie. I like that it's in chapters. It does, even though it is a long movie, because it is in chapters, you feel like you can kind of, pause it and come back. You don't need to watch it all in one sitting. In fact, I turned it off at the beginning of chapter 4 last night and went to bed and woke up and watched it from that point. And I was just so pleased. Chapter 4 is family. And I was like, here we go. This is what I needed going into this conversation to bring it back to the theme. And yeah, I love that it talks about real family and chosen family. And I really, really do think that last chapter 5 with Hal Holbrook, is a film unto itself, and it has such a powerful message about the old and the young, and being idealistic and being wise, and that there's wisdom in the idealism and there's wisdom in the experience, but there's also kind of a naivete to both as well. That Hal Holbrook feels like he's kind of given up because he's experienced this tragedy in his life, but then Christopher McCandless feels like, oh, don't you want to see the sea? Like, it's like, I guess, it's like, whatever.
It's not my thing.
Yeah. But, maybe it's better than sitting on your butt. I do really like the movie. I have a special connection to it because of you, Dad, and seeing it with you. And it was in the back of my mind the whole time I was doing my own travels. I can definitely relate to that feeling of just wanting to break free, to kind of abandon society and people that are close to you and try to challenge yourself. But personally, and I think that this is the message at the end of the film, is that you do just always kind of boomerang back to your loved ones, to your family, to your friends. And that's what means the most in life. It's not just, just derping around the desert or Alaska
or Hawaii
or Africa.
Or Africa.
I remember, Zach, you telling me about your trip. You were like, yeah, it was good, but after a while, you just like kind of want to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely on the drive home. Yeah, I was just like, all right, can we speed this up a little bit?
Yeah. And, and it's like, what the story would have been if he would have survived. He would have stayed in the woods probably for another couple of months or something and would have been like, all right, I've had enough. He's still wearing that gold watch. He's still connected to society.
Yeah, and he's living in a van. It's not like he made his own fortress or his own camping.
Yeah, he lucked out on the magic bus.
Yeah.
And that he probably would have been out there maybe for a couple more months and decided to go home, and maybe would have been on the road for a few years, but chances are he would have headed back home.
Yeah.
But who's to say? Who's to say?
I remember when you were in Africa, towards the very end, you were like, I just want to sleep in a nice bed. I just want to be home. I'm so over this whole Africa thing. I remember that conversation I had with you. I don't know whether it was over the phone or when you got back or whatever, but it was just like, okay, I did that. I don't want to live in a hut anymore. I don't want to be around bugs. I don't want to be protected by only lemongrass. I want to be home in a nice bed.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, after 2 years of living out in the bush, I mean, it kind of wears it down on you. And, I remember watching movies that would be like set in like a suburb or something. And I was like, actually, it looks pretty nice. It's like, but what took me there was this sense of I need to get away from all of that because you just don't know. And it's the not knowing that drives you into the unknown. You have this feeling of like, I don't know what's out there, so I have to explore it. And it's exciting. It's awesome. You meet awesome people. You see amazing things. I mean, I don't regret for a second any of the travels that I did in my life. But yeah, there comes a point when you like, for me, it was like realizing I don't have any money. When I go home, I don't want to live with my parents. I have, career goals and I want to pursue those. I had a lot of friends who kept traveling. They went to, the next country and the next country and kept living out of their backpack. And for me, I felt like it was just, I was done. But I mean, I know a lot of people who are still doing it, who are still on the road, who are still doing their thing. And they have a great time and more power to them. I mean, it's different strokes. But anyways, Dad, thanks for coming on Film with Family to talk to me and Zach about the movie Into the Wild. It was a good talk.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to plug, Glenn?
Plug in terms of what?
I don't know.
Right. Send money and gifts.
No. You want to plug the Big Island or?
Oh, I mean, I give a plug to the Big Island. It's just like my favorite place to be. People are always asking me, "Oh, have you visited the other islands?" No, I haven't. I really like it here. I really don't have any desire to go to Oahu and be around a bunch of tourists. I just...
You got your own volcano?
I got my own volcano in my backyard.
I've got something you can plug, Dad. The Surge.
On YouTube.
The Surge. If you haven't seen The Surge, go to YouTube at Austin C. Pruett, and you can watch The Surge. How many episodes did we do?
we've done 6 episodes of a film idea that was your idea about family members coming to visit you and you basically throwing them into a volcano and and
It's a great way to
becoming
put it.
and becoming
Everybody dies except for me.
well, that's debatable. That's debatable.
That's debatable.
I mean, you transform in the movie. So when I went to Hawaii, when my brother Drew went to Hawaii, when Zach went to Hawaii, when some of your friends have come to Hawaii, you've basically recruited them into your idea, which is the Surge. And I don't know, why don't you describe what the Surge is?
The Surge is about a man who loses, kills, destroys his family. Film with family.
Yeah.
What I saw couldn't be the truth. Could it be that I led my sons, loved ones, innocent people to devastation? It couldn't be true. I had to see again.
Film with family.
You can go on my YouTube page and also Zach's YouTube page because he did one episode of it.
Yeah, mine's called Resurge Redux, I think.
Last year, I went out there and we did Surge 6 and subscribe because there are more to come.
Yeah.
Oh, there are?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for reminding me we should do that.
Yeah.
No, it's just basically fun for us, and nobody's going to win an Academy Award. The acting's really bad.
No, your acting is great.
I do some cross-dressing,
Yeah, Austin was saying that witch character was inspired by The Northman, which is a movie I love.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
It was inspired by The Northman with the cowrie shells in my hair.
Yeah, that's great.
But that was a cool cave we found that we shot that in, and sort of serendipitous things that happened with lighting and that sort of thing. That was you just got to use what you can have or find at your fingertips to create.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Please tell everyone in the family I said hello. Please tell Drew I said hello. Hello, Drew, if you're watching. And you were part of this too because you saw the film with it.
Yep. Well, thanks again, Dad. Zach, always a pleasure. I love you guys. And
love you too.
And follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes, at Film with Family. And subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Much love to both of you. I love my family and I love the movies.
Aloha.
Aloha, Glenn.